Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey, guys.
Welcome to a virtual workshop where we're going to talk about common smartphone digiscoping problems. And yeah, we're going to just kind of let people kind of filter in here and for the next minute or two, and then we'll get started. But I'm Tim. I head up the marketing at Phonescope, and I'm here with Tanner and Kiara. If you guys want to say hello.
What's up, guys?
But yeah, glad to have everyone join in, and looking forward to helping y'all solve any problems you might have, or if you're just looking to get into digiscoping, you know, this will be a good workshop for you. Does that sound about right, guys?
Nailed it, Tim.
Yep.
Well done. Great intro. Hi, Michael. Sorry, I had to pull the chat up so I could see what the people have to say this morning. How's everyone doing?
Where are you guys chiming in from, or joining? Not chiming, joining. Post in the chat where you guys are watching from today.
I'm tuning in from Salt Lake. If anyone's curious. Hey, there's Tim. He's from Western PA. You already know.
That's it.
Did anyone get out phone scoping this weekend?
New Jersey, San Diego. I love San Diego. Work in North Dakota. You watching on the job. Love it.
We're
Mississippi.
Nice.
Hey,
Michael, we could probably do a video or the audio at the end when we hit the Q&A. So I think yeah, I think we should be able to do that. I think you just got to raise your hand to speak. That's how it goes.
Sounds right.
So Michael is birding in San Diego. Where are you hitting out there? La Jolla.
La Jolla.
La Jolla is my favorite. La Jolla Cove is my favorite place to digiscope in San Diego.
Nice.
Because the seals.
The seals, the pelicans, the Brandt's cormorants, they're all like right off the railing. Tijuana estuary. I don't know if I was at the Tijuana Slough. I don't know if that's the same place or not, but as the estuary.
Hey, from the UK. What's up, Brian?
Northeast Pennsylvania. What's up, Paul? That's cool. We're probably like 3 hours away from each other, dude. I live on the other side of State College. That's the same place. Cool, man. I think I saw at Tijuana. I don't know if I saw too much there. Yellow crown night heron for sure. I remember digiscoping it. You know. I think. Cool. Well, let's give it until 5 minutes. So it'll just be like another minute, guys. Then we'll get started. Just kind of let anyone else that comes in to join. We did drop a special offer in the offer section. So if you guys are looking to do any upgrades on your gear or need gear, Phonescope equipment, anything else on the website, feel free to check that out. There's a nice discount in there for you for joining in today. Appreciate you guys coming in. Paul, yeah, man, it's nonstop here as well. So lots of rain from the remnants of Hurricane Ida. So it's we're getting wet.
Quick housekeeping. Type in your questions in the chat section. There is a Q&A only section in the chat, but it's so much easier when everybody can see the question. So if you all don't mind, let's stay in the chat, and then, like Tim said, at the very end, we can probably do some speak questions. So we'll try out that feature. But up until then, let's stay in the chat, and but yeah, absolutely throw out all your questions that's what we're here for.
Cool. So as we go through this, Tanner's going to be able to do kind of live demos addressing the various problems. And Kiara and I will be here to support or add our own thoughts, because we kind of, it's not, everybody kind of has their own way that they do things, and how they find easiest to solve these problems that we're going to discuss. So it's kind of good to take everybody's like opinions on these problems, kind of how we all solve them, and then find what works best for you and your setup. So just keep an open mind as we go through here, and if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat or the Q&A as QR suggested, and then yeah, let's get started. You guys ready?
Let's go.
Cool. All right, so we're just going to start off with a couple slides here, and then we'll do some live demos. All right, I think we covered this already. Today we're going to talk about common smartphone digiscoping problems, and we'll hop right into that. So common problems, there can be so many problems when you're starting out Phonescoping or smartphone digiscoping. We like to call it Phonescoping. It's just simpler for us. So many problems that can kind of come up when you're doing it, and if you're just starting out, you might run into all of these in your first outing. And so we're going to break these down one by one. So we're going to talk about vignetting. That's the black ring that you'll see whenever you put your phone on the iCup. Blurry pictures. So we'll address some different ways that you can avoid blurry photos. We're going to talk about the distance to the subject that you're photographing, and how that can affect your pictures and videos. We're also going to talk about lighting, and what's good lighting, what's bad lighting, kind of what you can expect in various conditions, and maybe some of the best lighting for digiscoping. Eye relief. So the eye relief is like the eye cup on your spotting scope or binoculars. Really, it's how far the camera is away from your lens. So we're going to talk about how that distance affects the image on your phone. We're also going to talk about how magnification affects the image and video quality, and vignetting. It kind of all plays back and forth, or all plays together. And then we're going to talk about on the newer phones, how when you're using the regular camera app, the standard camera app, how that camera will switch back and forth between the different lenses, depending on if you're on like 1x or 2x or 3x on that phone. So and then we'll have a special bonus tip at the end that Tanner's been working on, and figured we'd share it with you guys first. Awesome. I probably talked real fast there, but that's all right.
No, you did great.
So the first problem that we're going to address might be the biggest one that we get, and kind of a lot of these other issues can kind of play into this, the vignetting or the black ring. So as you can see here on some of these, on these two pictures I have, you can see that black ring around the edge. Now this is like, for the most part, a crisp black ring, and it's not always that crisp, but black ring shading, vignetting is an issue, a pretty common one here, and I think Tanner can demonstrate on how to get rid of that black ring here. So I'm going to stop the presentation and bring him full screen for you guys.
Let's do it. All right, so the in this vignetting, it can be addressed a couple different ways. You can do it, with the telephoto lens. You can do it with some pinch and zoom. But depending on the objective of your optic, this one here is a 95 millimeter, so not a lot of vignetting with this particular scope. Switch the camera lens. So there you go. Now we're looking at a circle. I've got it at 30x, so the bottom of the zoom range for this particular optic. This is a Swarovski ATX 95, and then got the 95 objective. So one way that you'll see that change is by adjusting the magnification. You've got glass in here that's moving closer and further away from the phone camera. So that's when you need to fight that with some of the eye relief. And as you can see, as we twist this out, and we're bringing this further away from the glass here, and the glass inside, we're getting a nice crisp image around the edge here. So you'll also see the field of view improves quite a bit. So you can see those lines starting to clean up. That's where we want it. So what I'll like to do, once I find that eye relief for the magnification I want to use, I'll then take that and reattach the phone. Or you can, depending where it's at, see I'm in the middle of the zoom range and the middle of this eye relief. So the issue is when I put my phone out here, it's going to want to spin, but it's going to do that either way. So this is just something that's kind of tricky, that it's, you know, something that you'll need to practice and try to find your own workaround. What I've tried doing in the past, you know, you can take a piece of Velcro or even a hair tie or something and wrap it around the eyepiece so it won't rotate down any farther. But if you have the eye cup fully extended, what I like to do at that point is take the phone and put it on this side. So we're a little off kilter there, but now look at that reflection of me. That's fun. So now the phone's not going to move, and then you're going to still be in that good amount of eye relief. And I'll show you now on the Skope what we're trying to accomplish here. Wrong peg. There we go. So we've got a little bit of this black edge over here. That means that the camera is not looking perfectly through that scope. So you may just need to make a slight adjustment there. Look at that. Beautiful. Nice crisp lines. That's what you're after. And then if you want to get rid of those, you can pinch and zoom a little bit. A little bit of digital zoom is not going to kill the image quality, but it will help get rid of those annoying edges. You can also use the editor app, the Phonescope editing app, to get rid of that vignette, basically doing that in post-processing versus right out of the gate. So yes, vignetting is complicated. It's a long, drawn-out mess, if you will, but it can be addressed. You can tame the beast. You just have to practice. The beast that is vignetting.
So that on spotting scopes, that's those are great tips for getting rid of that. On binoc, do you have binos there, Tanner? If you don't, I do.
Yep.
Go ahead. Do you want to just demonstrate the binos on how to get rid of that?
Yep. So again, we're working on a 1x lens, the wide angle. Helps if you take the eye cap off. There we go. So really with binos, it's pretty simple. I mean, it cleans up pretty quickly. Let's twist the eye cup out, see what happens. So a little less field of view. Looks like these work well. Sorry about that. Looks like these work well with the eye cup twisted down. So just slip this eye cup off so you can see. Again, just slides on. Oops. Eye cup wants to rotate down. So you can address that by kind of holding it here or putting the phone straight up and down, then it won't rotate, or you can pull it off and put it at the far side there. But less to mess with binoculars because you don't have that glass moving. You only have one variable. So it's a lot easier to address that eye relief issue.
Yep, and then if you do have that black ring on there, just zooming with the phone, just easiest way to get rid of that. Binos are definitely the most under. I take my binos everywhere, so I always have my Phonescope and binos there. So yeah, if you guys don't have a bino adapter, definitely pick one up. It's just nice to have always. You never know what you're going to see when you're out and about, and it's super easy to get rid of that vignetting with that. And I think we have some videos on our YouTube channel kind of just showing how to use the Phonescope with the binos. And like that, because it might seem a little cumbersome at first, but after, you know, just using it and kind of getting used to your system, it isn't that hard, and is really fun to do. So
For sure.
cool. All right, we can hop back into the presentation and just see what's next. All right, blurry pictures. So blurry pictures, everyone has probably taken, you've done any sort of photography, not even just digiscoping. You probably have gotten a blurry picture or video and have wondered, okay, what can I do to make this a better picture? Next time, what can I do to fix this? A lot of things kind of factor into the quality of your pictures. And honestly, a lot of these other issues, again, they kind of all, these common problems, they all kind of play a part into this, like distance to the subject, lighting, magnification. Those are the big ones here. Can kind of all play a part in your quality of pictures, as does your phone and your optic as well. But we're not going to really discuss that here unless you guys have specific questions on optics or phones. But when you're taking pictures, really, like the three things I just talked about, you know, the further your subject is, probably the less quality of picture you're going to get. That's just the distance factor. Lighting as well. So if you're in really harsh sunlight, so like just the sun's just beating down, like this top picture I have here, I took that in Arizona. It's a burrowing owl midday in the desert, and you know, you can see it's not like, it's a cool picture, the background's blurred, you know, it's a cool picture, but it's still blurry, it's not super crisp, and that's just because the lighting it was just midday and that sun was just beating down on that. It wasn't too far away, so it kind of turned out to be a cool picture. And the bottom picture, I took that in Salt Lake, in a it's just a park just outside of the main city, and it was kind of getting dark, and it was under a bunch of trees, so there was hardly any light there, and so you could see that, yeah, it's a good picture, but it's not a great picture. Still blurry. There wasn't a whole lot of light there, because when you do take pictures, lighting can be kind of your best friend when you want to get a high quality photo, or just not a blurry one. But you know, the conditions, kind of where you're digiscoping at, whether you're out, you know, whether you're in the shade in the forest, or you know, on the side of a mountain, or out in the desert, you know, lighting is huge. And what I found, if you're just going out to digiscope, and you know, which maybe you're not always just looking to do that, but if you are, some of the best times to do that, you know, they call it the golden hour. So it's like the first hour of light, or after sunrise, and then the last hour of sunlight. So right before sunset, that last hour of sunset. And if you can have the lighting to your back shining on the subject, that's also beneficial when trying to get the best picture or video. And then magnification is big. So whether you're using the magnification on your scope or your phone, so the more magnification you use, it doesn't really matter what scope or phone combination you're using. If you max out the magnification on both of those, the image and video quality there's a good chance it's going to go down. I'm not going to say it for, you know, it's always going to go down, just because there are always exceptions. But for the most part, from what we've found over years of doing this, the quality of that media that you're creating or capturing is going to go down with magnification. So say, you know, for example, if I'm looking at this burrowing owl here, and I know where they're burrowing owls, or where they're mule deer at night, you know, sunset, I want to go out and get an awesome picture. So I'm going to wait till probably about an hour and a half before sunset, and go to where I know the sun's going to be to my back and shining right on that subject. And I'm going to try to get within, for a bird, it's a little easier to get closer than it is a deer. If you're just going out to take pictures, try to get as close as you can. So as close as you can, lighting to your back, so it's shining right on that subject, and use as little magnification as possible to get rid of that vignetting and to get as full frame of a picture or video as you can, or kind of however you're picturing that scene. If you want more of the background in there, it's all personal preference, but if you're trying to get a full picture of that subject, try to get as close as you can to do that, and then use a combination of of your phone and scope magnification. And we'll cover this in a little bit and Tanner can show you that on the scope. But just using a combination of those, the lighting on your back, the golden hour of the day, and the distance to the subject, low magnification, that's going to be your best combination for optimal pictures. Do you have anything to add, you guys?
I was going to ask, do we want to talk about Brian's question and then also the shutter button, because that helps eliminate blurry photos as well?
Yep. So we do have the shutter button at the end as like a better how to take better pictures. But that is a way to take better pictures. So just using this button right here. Brian, I'll answer your question in a sec because I have a different way that I hold the phone. I can show you guys. So this right here, this is the shutter button. So instead of tapping the phone to take a picture, I'll just bounce out of the presentation. Maybe it'll be a little easier. I'll go big. That's cool. So this right here, guys, this is our shutter button. I don't know if it's still synced up to my phone or not, but I was testing this out on, side note, I was testing this out on a Galaxy, my sister's phone, so I might not have repaired it. You click this button right here to take the picture instead of tapping the phone screen. So that removes any like excess vibration when you are taking pictures. Not so much with video. It's kind of less post-processing on the video if you don't have to tap the screen, so you can just post it, or if you're worried about the phone shaking at the beginning and the end from tapping the screen, you can avoid that with the shutter button. So let me see Brian's. I have two shutter buttons, but they quickly depower. So I think that is they go to sleep. I'm not sure exact. Tanner, do you know what the time frame is on how soon they go to sleep?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I would say within 15 minutes. Like trade shows, when we do trade shows, the shutter button gets used probably the most, just because you're constantly demoing that. And I can get a full day, if not 2 days, out of a shutter button at a trade show. But I'm not sure on the timer there. That'd be a good thing to double check. I think it's 15-20 minutes, but we can double check that and get back with you on that, Brian.
So I'll just kind of demonstrate how I use the phone on the binos. So I'm just going to open up just my standard phone camera app. So you got this here. So I rotate my eye cup out on these. You guys here, I got my Phonescope here. So what I do is I just slide it over just like that. You can get rid of the picture. And then what I do is I'm holding it just like I do with I'm holding the binos, so I can focus with the wheel here, focus on the subject. And then with the phones, with the volume button will trigger the shutter. So you just take the picture by clicking this volume button.
Nice.
So that's how I use the binos. It's kind of like just using a camera. It's the same exact method as you are, taking a camera with a DSLR or taking a picture with a camera.
For sure.
That's also how I use it. Absolutely.
Michael, yep, you can use the timer feature as well, for sure. Especially if your subject is sitting there for a lengthy period of time. The timer does work really well.
Mm-hmm.
So is that Is that it for that problem right now?
I think we covered it pretty well.
The blurry pictures, again, you know, this is all, they all kind of, all, you know, as we're going through here, the problems kind of all work, you know, it's, you can kind of solve one problem by fixing another one, you know, they just kind of all work together.
They do, and when there's an issue that's not being addressed, it can definitely compound it quickly to the point of not getting a very good image.
Yep. So we can talk about that right here. So this top pictures, we're gonna talk about distance to subject and how we kind of discussed that a little bit earlier. Typically, the farther away your subject, the blurrier the picture is gonna be. I mean, if you blow it up, it's not gonna be super crisp for the most part. But you can see here, I think these were Egyptian vultures in Belize at the top. They were, oh man, they may have been like a quarter mile, half mile away, something like that, in direct sunlight, midday heat. So you got the distance and the lighting. Sure, you know, I did this more of like a documentation photo on a trip to Belize. That these were the only group of these vultures that we saw together. So it took this picture, and it was cool. But it's a great example for this this problem. And same with the goose photo down below. So I took there's a goose in the middle of there, which is why I took this picture. It's called a cackling goose. It was a documentation photo strictly for like a rare bird in the area. So I took that. Again, the sun was beating down on that. It was midday, and this bird was out in the center of the lake. So distance to the subject and lighting here, you know, again, these are just, you know, I don't, sometimes I like to get as best photo as I can when I'm looking, if something's perched up perfectly or something is there and it's awesome. Like, I try to get the best photo possible in all situations, but sometimes, you know, you just want to document whatever you're seeing, you know, whether it's a big buck or a bull or a rare bird, or just some cool sighting, you know, the moon, sunrise, you know, some cars racing or whatever you want, like whatever you're out doing, always trying to get the best photo possible, and kind of like working through these problems is going to help you maximize that instance or that capture. Oh yeah, Brian, thanks, man. They are king vultures, not Egyptian vultures. Thank you. Appreciate that. But yep. So that's all I got on distance. Tanner, do you have anything on that?
No, you really, I would say, nailed it, especially, you know, when you touched on blurry pictures about trying to cut the distance, you know, and then along with lighting, you know, trying to get the subject with the you know, the sun at your back, shooting that way. Yeah, no, I just spent last weekend in the flats of Nevada trying to digiscope antelope or pronghorn, and there's just no way to get around that, you know, that heat shimmer, that the distortion, the atmospheric distortion. So it's distance is a killer for sure.
Yeah, distance and lighting, man. That midday heat haze or shimmer, you know, it's tough to get a good solid picture with that under those conditions. And, you know, with the antelope, I don't know how close you can get to those, but
they're pretty weary. And it was super smoky, so it just they turned the pictures, the video turned out pretty rough, but still, like you said, a documentation photo basically.
Yeah. Cool. So I know we've discussed a lot about lighting already today, and these are just two pictures that I found that I took that I thought could you know, explain it a little differently than what we've already talked about. So that the top picture there, although not perfect, it is approaching the golden hour. This was probably like 2 hours before sunset, but the sun was to our back. Still, I really enjoyed this digiscoping experience with these mule deer. This was in Utah. Sun was to my back. It was just perfect situation. This awesome viewing conditions, first of all, and then the Phonescoping was super fun as well. Below here, this was I believe it was a plumeous kite from Belize. The sun, the sun was on the other side of this bird, so the bird was like up off to the left, so the bird was kind of backlit. And so when the sun is opposite the subject, for the most part, it's going to be backlit. Tanner can probably speak more on behalf of like deer and elk. I haven't really been in that situation, but as far as birds go, if the sun is on the opposite side, it just kind of washes all the color out. So it kind of really shows the importance of, if you were going out to Digiscope to try to get the best picture possible, not just to capture what you're seeing, but if you're trying to get the best image possible, try to make sure that sun is to your back when you're photographing.
For sure. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I guess with the ungulates, with deer and elk, yes, the animal itself is a beautiful creature, but the antlers is usually what everyone's looking at. So, when those are up in the air and you got the sun hitting it, you got a nice silhouette, beautiful. It's all personal preference, on that, I think. But no, lighting, you're nailing it.
Cool. So Tobin asked about, we'll just answer this question here since it popped up in the chat.
Brian also had another question.
Yep. So you want to, I can take this one if you want, if you have anything to chime in or add in, not chime in. I keep saying chime in. Sorry, guys.
Chime. For Tobin or Brian?
Brian.
I've got an opinion on both those.
Go for it.
So for getting sharp, for me, I wear contacts. I have an astigmatism. Like it's sharp to your eye, but it may not be sharp to the phone. But to answer Brian's question, I get it close. Absolutely. I'll get, I usually get the subject. I'll get it, I'll get my subject in the frame. I'll check I may zoom a little. I may, play with the focus, but usually what I will do is take the focus all the way over so it's out of focus, and then I'll bring it back into focus. That helps me get as crisp as possible to my eye, and then I will go from there and attach the phone. So yes, always focus with the optic first. Even if your eye's a little off, it'll definitely get you closer. But then once the phone is attached, I always tinker a little bit more because, like Tim, I like it to look as good as possible. But don't be afraid to adjust that focus a little bit on the optic. Tobin's question, I love angled spotting scopes. I grew up with an old Bushnell Space Master straight spotting scope. And for me, those are easier to get the subject in the frame. But with the angled scope, after some practice, it gets pretty simple. But for me, this helps support the weight of that phone. It's not hanging directly off of the optic. So, the weight of it may start tipping your tripod or pulling your spotting scope down. So for me, I like an angled. Also for viewing, you're not having to view like this. You can be more kind of over the top of it. So personal preference again, but I prefer angled scopes.
One other thing on the angled versus straight is to keep in mind is whenever you have a straight scope, your tripod typically has to be higher than an angled. So, otherwise you're going to be hunkered down. So if it's super windy and you're standing up and you have to raise that straight scope up, it's going to be higher. So your tripod's not going to be as steady.
Great point.
So I'm an angled I like the angled scope as well. My first scope also was a straight. I think it was a Vortex Skyline. And I do prefer the angled scope. That is personal preference. But yeah, with practice, it works. You know, I'm short, so I I like to keep my tripod as short as possible too. So the angle just works well for me.
Yeah, keeping as low as possible definitely helps with vibration. You know, if you're taking a photo and tapping the screen, you're definitely going to have more vibration the taller the tripod is. Those legs are just stretched out further. So yeah, keep as low as possible, and the angle definitely helps with that. That's a good point.
Cool. Anything else on lighting, dude?
We'll touch on that. I think that'll kind of pull into the little tip I want to share with everybody of how to get the most light out of your phone in the darkest. I won't say the darkest times. That sounds like a Batman trailer. But just to help get you the most light possible, get the most juice out of that squeeze. So we'll touch on that towards the end.
Cool. All right, dude. So we'll talk about eye relief here. Again, if you want to take eye relief and what it is, and we kind of already touched on it, but we can kind of just dive into it here. And then if anybody has any specific questions, feel free to drop them in.
Sure.
To the chat. I'll pop out here.
Yep. So I will square this up. Okay. So let me see if I can actually get it to where you can see. There we go. So you can actually kind of see the mechanics. Watch the inside of the spotting scope here. So as I zoom, you can kind of see that circle getting smaller, larger. That was what I was touching on earlier with that glass moving closer and further away. So with that, that's why eye relief is a thing to allow your eye. I mean, for eyeglass wearers, you have it down. For non-eyeglass wearers, you'll have it out. I think that's kind of the basic rule of thumb. But when it comes to digiscoping, it really just depends. Each scope is different. I'm sure there is someone out in the world that understands the mechanics of this better than we do. Hopefully someday I will, understand that as well, and I can pass that on to you guys. But the eye relief is there to be adjustable and give you more flexibility, so that something you would do with your eye naturally. You just do this naturally. You're looking through the scope, and can you guys see what I'm doing here? All right. So naturally, you're kind of just moving closer and further away. So I would encourage you, go grab your optics, go grab your scope, put the eye relief all the way down, and just kind of move your eye closer and further away. You kind of see where you start to get that nice crisp round edge. And when you do get that, you could take your eye relief and go, just adjust it like that. But as I'm zooming in, as I'm adjusting the scope, you can see things are changing. And again, practice, practice, practice. So that's why eye relief is there. It's there to help you with the magnification and basically just get the best crisp image that you can. I feel like I'm beating that dead horse, but it's a common problem, and it's still something I think we struggle with, trying to get it perfect. We understand why it's there. It's just trying to find that perfect sweet spot, that combination that works for your phone and that optic.
Yep. So when you're thinking about eye relief as well, and Tanner just kind of touched on it, every phone and scope combination is different. So every optic has an optimal eye relief. Every single optic has like the perfect eye relief, but that changes with whatever phone you're using. So if you're using an iPhone or a Galaxy, and a lot of times it switches between, the optimal eye relief changes between various iPhones and whichever camera you're using on the iPhone. So it's really just trying to figure out what works for your setup, and they're all different. So like if I had the same scope as Tanner, but a Galaxy S10, the optimum, and what do you have, the iPhone 12 Pro Max? So if we had the same scope but different phones, that eye relief, it could only be like 1/8 of an inch difference, but it's still like trying to find that sweet spot for your phone and your scope, and it's different for every single phone combination there is. Phone and scope combination.
For sure. Yeah. Paul asked a question. He's using an iPhone 11 Pro Max. Is it better with the 1X or the 2X? Paul, for the Pro Max, I suggest using the telephoto lens whenever the sun is up, whenever lighting is really good. If the sun is down, go with the 1X, only because that gathers more light. It has the aperture is larger, so it allows more light to the camera sensor. So 1X when the sun's down, 2X when the sun is up. Basic rule of thumb, but it works for me. Michael posted a question as well.
Yep.
Tim, reading through there.
Yeah. So I've used that exact scope.
The Regal.
Okay. Man, I don't have specific experience with the different eyepieces, just with the standard eyepiece that comes on that scope. And I want to say I used an iPhone 4S when I had that scope, maybe the 6 Plus or the 5, iPhone 4, iPhone 5. I really like that scope. Actually, a lot of the pictures, so that burrowing owl and different things like that I've taken in the Southwest, those were all taken with the Regal M2, that exact scope. But I don't know. Man, that's like a super technical question that I don't know how to answer. I just use the regular eyepiece that came on that, and just use the combination of the scope in the phone zoom to get the best pictures and video. If I tried to comment on the other eyepieces, I couldn't do that. So sorry about that.
That's a good question. There are, like Koa, they have a few different eyepieces. A few, in their Vortex, they've had some LER eyepieces, long eye relief. So it depends on, does it have an adjustable eye cup? Is it a long eye relief? That can definitely affect things. Just to speak to that specific of a scope, I can't right off the bat, just because there are so many different variables, and I don't have a ton of experience with that M2.
If you can get a wide angle eyepiece, typically that is the going to be better for digiscoping, because the more kind of narrow the eyepiece, what happens with the phone is that it looks like that black ring, that vignetting is what you're seeing as the inside of the eyepiece. So if you can get a wide angle eyepiece, I'm not sure if Celestron has wide angle eyepieces, but if they do, that typically, is the best piece of equipment for digiscoping. Yep. And yeah, man, so I found, if the eyepieces that I'm using are like 20 to 60 power, I find that like 30 to 40, so that mid-range is always, ideal for everything that I've used for the best possible picture.
Sure. But, yeah, the long eye relief models are a good idea, as long as it has some adjustable eye cup. I have seen a few that it did not. So we actually didn't have a Phonescope adapter for them, because it had to be, this far away from the eyepiece, and our adapters aren't that long. They're generally about this long, about ½ inch. So yeah, it depends on if it has an adjustable eye cup, would make a difference there. And then I can see where having just a specific, if it's a 14x eyepiece, similar to a camera, if you have a lens that's variable, the images aren't generally as good or as crisp as something that is just, say, a 24 millimeter. So I can see where that's the case with those. But again, with it being that specific, hard to say off the cuff. Sorry.
Cool. I'm not sure what other problems we got. Magnification is up next. Let's see here. Start that. You want to go into magnification, dude?
Yeah, let's go. So this is a good example and a comparison of the wide angle lens versus a telephoto. These particular pictures were shot with an iPhone 12 Pro Max. So the wide angle is 1x, but the telephoto is 2.5x. And you can see there is some trade-off. You've got the vignette on that upper image, but that lower one gets rid of it all. But for me, I'd say it's a little tight. I was missing his cool hairdo with that 2.5x. But again, that's bottom of the zoom range on this scope. I was at 30x. Just a direct comparison between the two. So the magnification, the best way to really pull in on an image or on a subject is to use your optical zoom first. So with the spotting scope, I don't love maxing out the zoom range. I feel like that last 10 to 15x gets pretty rough and unusable. So I usually am at a 60x, and this scope goes to 70, but I tend to max it out at 60. I feel like optically that's the best, that the scope can do. And then from there, pinch and zoom to bring it in a little bit tighter. A little bit of digital zoom isn't going to kill you, but you can also digitally zoom in after the fact. So if you want your original video file to not have any digital zoom, which I usually don't, unless I'm really trying to get a close look, I'll usually leave the digital zoom alone unless I'm trying to get rid of the vignette, and then I can, pull and pick and look at it from there. So that with the optical magnification, that's what I recommend. I don't recommend maxing it out. You usually lose a lot of quality. And then to really ramp up the magnification, having a phone with a telephoto lens, this one here is on top, that makes a huge difference. These newer phones, I would say from probably the iPhone 11 and up, the telephoto works extremely well. It even works pretty well in low light situations. Again, I recommended earlier using the wide angle, but that telephoto, they do work really well now. So you can, take that to a 2.5x, and that's an optical zoom on the phone. It's not a digital zoom. So you can really reach out and grab those subjects. But practice, again, just drop the phone on there, play with the 1x lens, see what that field of view looks like, then move to the 2.5x lens, see what that field of view looks like. I really suggest just taking it into the backyard as soon as you get it, or go out in the field, have yourself a field day, and start playing with your scopes and your phone and getting comfortable with it.
Yep. Yeah. Every like we've said a bunch of times, every phone and scope combination is different, and so the more you practice with it, the better you're going to get, and the faster you're going to be able to find that sweet spot, depending on what magnification you're at and different things like that. But yeah, typically the more magnification you have, the quality of the picture or video is going to go down.
Yeah, it's, I think digiscoping and phonescoping, it's a skill, and it's something you got to practice. And the more you practice, definitely the better you'll get used to it, or the better you'll get at it. And the more you'll get used to your specific setup. I'm always hesitant to switch phones because I'm always a creature of comfort, and I like knowing that this is going to work perfectly. I can go to my 2.5x lens, bring my eye cup out, zoom into 60, and I'm ready to go. So again, practice.
Yep. So Paul, yeah, man, just practice. We've been doing this for 10 years.
Yeah, right.
And it's man, sometimes it can still be frustrating, because the conditions are always changing. Phones are always changing. The one thing that, for the most part, stays consistent is the optic. But things are always changing. So just the more you get out, the more you do it, the easier it's going to get. And we're always here for you if you have any technical questions or specific questions. We can answer those for you and try to help you work through those issues. Brian, do you recommend always having the phone vertical rather than horizontal on the scope? It just depends on what you want to get out of it. Like, what are you looking to share? If you like portrait style, so with the phone up like this, if you like portrait style imagery, or if that's how the subject that you're photographing, like if it's a bird perched up or a bear standing up or something like that, and you want that portrait frame, then do that. I typically record in horizontal or take pictures in horizontal. That's, it's just the photographer in me. I hardly ever take pictures portrait with any camera. So I prefer the horizontal. But if you're going to share it to like Instagram stories or Facebook stories or something like that, shooting in portrait is definitely a good idea. Paul said, just talking about digiscoping at night, the stars and the moon. Yep, we've done that with our spotting scopes for sure. And Tanner, I haven't used a telescope, but Tanner has.
Yeah, I have. It's a Celestron telescope. I've actually, between that telescope and then just using this spotting scope, I'm able to get better images with the Swarovski scope. But yes, over the weekend, and you still see it, I'm sure. Jupiter's super close right now, and there it is. So that was just from this weekend. The moon's always fun to look at. That's always one that every time I look at it, I'm like, wow, it's just every time, never fails. Awesome.
Brian, yeah, man, that if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna shoot, widescreen, definitely horizontal on the app or on your phone. If you're gonna try to broadcast that on a television or on Zoom, or FaceTime, I guess FaceTime you would do portrait. I don't think they do does FaceTime do landscape? I don't know if they do that or not.
I don't think so. Not that I know.
But whichever feature, whichever like video chat that you're doing, just however if they allow you to orient your phone horizontal and it'll rotate like that, I would shoot horizontal. It's typically because you can see more of what's going on than you would if the phone was straight up and down.
Sure. Michael, we do not sell a hood to shade the phone, but it is something on the table that we've discussed over the years. Hopefully, we'll have a solution for you, next year or the following. But yes, stay tuned. It is something we're considering working on or bringing to the market, I guess.
So we got the last problem that the common problem, maybe not the last, endless problem. This one here is ranking up there with the vignetting on in like eye relief issues that we get almost every day, probably every day, if not multiple times a day, with the new phones and the camera switching back and forth, or just not having the adapter centered on a certain camera. This is a very, very, very common issue that we work endlessly to try to to help solve and try to give you guys the options to just have with your setup. So Tanner, if you want to run into this, I'll stop the presentation and send you widescreen.
Yep, let's do it. So 12 Pro Max has 2 usable Digiscoping lenses. I know that some of the new phones out there have 4, 5, 6 lenses, but all you'll have to worry about for Digiscoping, the wide angle and the telephoto. Ultra wide doesn't work, and then the super telephoto on the Samsung, that lens design doesn't work with Digiscoping either. So when the camera is switching on you, what's happening is the phone is telling you, hey, I'm not getting enough light to this sensor, so I'm going to try and switch to this camera and see if that's picking up enough light. And generally, the wide angle is picking up more light than the telephoto, so it always tries to default back to that. So the simplest way to answer this is use the Phonescope camera app, but I would like to demonstrate where you're running into that issue. So we'll go just live here. So what's happening, and you won't run into this issue as much with the video mode when you're recording, but as you can see, once I zoom to the threshold of that telephoto, I can go to 2.4 and then it wants to switch. So there it's switching between the two.
Tanner, can you raise your scope up a little bit?
I sure can. Sorry about that.
There you go.
Appreciate you keeping an eye there.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. Let's help out a little more. It's a little better. It's a little foggy, but so I'll run back through that again. I'm on the wide angle lens, and you can only center one camera app or one camera lens at a time. So I've got it set up on the wide angle. We'll just go to photo mode because that does seem to be the most common that people head to. For me personally, I like taking video and then grabbing screenshots after the fact. It may not be as high a quality, but it works for me. So you can see as you're pinching and zooming, you can really get yourself in some trouble in a hurry. So there it's switching between the two lenses. One way to get around that I found is if you're videoing, it might be switching. I know for a fact that when I'm on the telephoto, so lift up the tab here and then press up, that slides the disc and centers it perfectly over the telephoto lens. We'll go there. Go into video. So it's in 1x mode, but we're centered over the telephoto, so the screen is black. Makes perfect sense. Let's switch to the telephoto for now. It doesn't help that I'm in a room and it's dark. But let's see. Sorry, ahead of myself as usual. So 1x video. Let's see what happens. It's still there. It's not moving. So that keeps it from switching. That's one way to do it. If you insist on using the native Apple camera app, shoot video, record, and then you can zoom. But if you're doing it here, it's switching. So that's the best I can recommend for the Apple camera app. That will help to keep it from switching. As I mentioned before, what we definitely suggest is that you download the free Phonescope camera app, and that will allow you to toggle between the two lenses and have full control. So you can zoom. Terrible example as it's black. Let me slide that back up. So you can zoom in and out, and it's not going to switch the lens on you. It keeps it locked in on that lens. Again, we're switching black screen. That's because we're in the wide angle. So back to wide angle. And then we'll zoom. See that? Past the threshold, and it still keeps it locked into the wide angle. So my short version of that answer, download the Phonescope camera app. My long version, well, you might have to replay this on YouTube.
Um, so Brian, yeah, so we have the Phonescope camera app for both Apple and Android, and so it'd be in the App Store or the Google Play. You can find it there. It is there. It is free right now, so you guys can try that. And then if you download it, any feedback that you have, please send it over to us. Support@phonescope.com. On the camera app, just like our phone cases, anything else, we're always trying to make it better for you and for anyone else that's using it. Debbie, I've overheated my phone doing a long video on American dippers, going back and forth to the nest feeding the sun. Yep, that will definitely happen. So yeah, the cooling of the phone is definitely something that we are just starting to work on. Is the GoPro a better option than a phone? Personally, I'm not a fan of the GoPro. I feel like it's easier. You have more control over the phone and your magnification than you do on a GoPro. Some folks do like the GoPro but to me, there's just more control, easier to control and adjust the settings on the phone. Plus, you always have your phone in your pocket for the most part. So it's just one less piece of equipment that you have to carry around. But again, there are some folks that do like the GoPro. So it's personal preference. If you want to try the GoPro, you could try it.
The GoPro, I've been messing with the Hero 9 quite a bit lately. I like I think it's a great option if you're in really crappy conditions. It's really rough weather out. That's one plus side to the GoPro. I think it's a little more weatherproof than the phones are.
Yeah.
And it's pretty compact. It doesn't mess with the eye relief or the eye cup adjustment on your optic or binocular, just because it's it may not weigh less than most phones, but it's a nice compact little package. But for me, I definitely agree with you, Tim. I like the phone. The screen is larger. It's easier to manipulate the controls. The GoPro can be tough and not a ton of flexibility with it. But if you're not into updating your phone or if you do update your phone very often and you want a Phonescope that works just for your GoPro, really is a great option. Like they say, the best camera is the one that you have with you. So if you have, an older iPhone or something, you're probably going to get better results with a newer GoPro. So it, again, personal preference.
Cool. Let's see here. All right. So I know Tanner just kind of went over this. Depending on what phone you have, the standard camera app on that phone might work well. I know on the iPhone 11, which is what I have, it doesn't switch back and forth between the cameras. So just the standard camera app will work just fine for you. And for whatever application you're using it for, that might work perfectly fine for you. And whenever we're going through any of this stuff, it's really just finding what's easiest for you, what's going to make the experience easier, Phonescoping, Digiscoping easier for you. So take all this in. If you got to rewatch the presentation again to kind of figure out the different options you have and trying different things, like definitely do that and figure out what works best for you. Because what works best for me or what works best for Tanner might not work best for you. All we can do is kind of guide you along the process and just kind of help you that way.
Sure.
And then as Tanner said about the Phonescope camera app, it's free in the App Store on both on the Apple App Store and then on Google Play. It allows you to lock that camera in, whichever camera that your optic adapter is centered over. If you have one of the phones that, does do the switching back and forth, it's a great option. It definitely solves that problem because it can be extremely frustrating when you are in the native camera app and trying to zoom and it's black screen. It's like, why do I have a black screen? just being able to lock in on that camera is extremely useful. And then I don't know if do you want to do a demo on the camera app real quick, Tanner?
Yeah.
The different features and the preset, saving the presets and different things like that.
Yep. Sorry, I am just putting my phone on airplane so I don't have a bunch of stuff popping up.
While Tanner's doing that, I will do a quick little plug. I head up all of the app development on the camera app. So like Tim and Tanner were saying earlier, if you have any questions, suggestions, please let us know. But we will have a new edition of the camera app coming out in the next couple of months with some really neat upgrades, specifically screen sharing we're working on. So if you're out with other people and you want to share what's going on, you just shoot it over a link and everyone can check out on their phones what you're looking through with your scope or your binoculars. And then also a way to remove metadata, work with metadata, change it to no telemountain, however you want to handle that. Those are some new big things we're working on. So, as well as, just a smoother, better working, always building to make it better experience for the user. So
Sure.
Let Tanner take it away.
Take it away. So the Phonescope camera app. Sorry, just there we go. I think that's close enough. So we go to the home screen. Got a couple different options. So I'm using a spotting scope or binocular in this case. So we'll just start here at the top and work down. Again, that's the home button. Just press that. That just takes you back to this page. And here's the flash. When you're digiscoping, make sure it is set to off. You do not want a flash in there. Creates an effect that I'm not a fan of. This will switch your camera. So this goes to front-facing camera. This always gets a question. But this button locks the orientation of your phone. So I will have it unlocked and I will just show you. The phone orients itself. So this stuff moves to the bottom and the top. Nice catch, Tanner. You can catch me on ESPN's Top 10 later today. Anyways, so to keep that from happening, you can lock that and it locks in the orientation. So it's not going to be moving the phone around. It can be super handy in a lot of situations, specifically if it's really steep. The phone starts to kind of struggle to figure out what you're trying to do, whether it's portrait or horizontal or landscape. Sorry. The light bulb here, that adjusts the brightness of the screen, or dims it down. So if you're recording something and it's really lighting up your face, or you're trying to stay incognito, just tap that and that will dim the display. That is the trigger for the photo. Looky there, I've got my timer set up at 3 seconds, which I definitely recommend. Timer, stabilization. Some of the phones have stabilization built into the camera lens. It should automatically have that. It would be in a default mode. So whatever you have your camera set up in the settings, most likely you'll have stabilization already on, but you can turn it on there. Filters, just a few different black and white and different things like that. I don't particularly use filters much, just because I would rather do that in post-processing, but do have the option. So that turns the timer off, or you can set it for 1 second, 3 seconds, or 10. I like having it 3 seconds. Gives a little more time for the scope to kind of just settle in on what we're trying to look at. Watermark, so you can add a text. That's my Instagram handle. You can add a text to it. Geotagging I have on because I love having a map in the iPhoto section, or on the photos section on this iPhone. Sorry, you can go to the map and it shows you all these different places where you've taken a picture. And for what I like to do, it's super handy. Change it, you can save as a JPEG, RAW, or you can do a RAW and JPEG. Most folks, I would say, just stick with the JPEG, takes up less space, but RAW is awesome if you want to start getting into post-processing and adjusting the highlights or the shadows or the whites and the blacks. Gives you a lot more to tinker with. The RAW and JPEG, that gives you one of each. So I'll just stick with JPEG for now. Photo quality, I like it on high myself. And then the features list, this is something that we'll be updating in the future. It's inaccurate. As you can see, it says I have an iPhone 5. It will also tell you that you have an iPhone 5. But we are working on it. Trust that we are working on it. So now we're into the video mode. I'm into the settings. Tap that again. So for the most part, it's all, the top's the same, bottom's pretty similar. But we have a time lapse feature. So if you would like to take a time lapse, you can do that. It really wants to let us have that time lapse. There we go. Slow-mo. Oops, wrong button. So we'll turn that off and we'll leave 4K video on. 4K is going to take up a lot more space, but it's pretty cool when you put it on the TV or your computer monitor. These on the side here, this is your exposure. So we can ramp up the exposure or bring it back down. And if you want to bring it to baseline, you can always just tap the screen and that will take care of it. This is a manual focus feature. So if you watch the edge here, try and get my hand out of the way, you can see we're adjusting the focus. Again, to bring it to baseline, just tap the screen and you're ready to go. So that switches the camera lens. Again, we are centered over the wide angle. So on the telephoto, we're seeing black. Now we're back to a screen. So hopefully that gets you going on the Phonescope camera app. It's a free app. It works well, and we're working on improvements to help out with that in the future. And we have a new feature that we're going to tease here, and then hopefully have that ready to go for you guys. Hopefully by the first of next year.
Yep. And so we just talked about the native camera app and the Phonescope camera app, which that's what we primarily use, but there are a ton of other third-party apps on both of the App Store and Google Play. And I know Michael dropped a couple in the chat. Camera FV5 for the Androids, and then the Camera Plus 2 for the iPhone. So again, guys, it's figuring out what works best for you on your phone with your cameras and your setup. So if you do download the Phonescope app, like I said, give it a shot. It's free. Just give us some feedback on that if you can. We can just continue to make it better for you. Because our primary focus for that is for Digiscoping. So that is our primary focus. With the camera app is for Phonescoping. Cool. So a couple tips to take better pictures and videos. We kind of this is kind of just a little summary because we chatted about a few of these already. The biggest thing is to practice. Just go and do it as much as you can. Whenever possible, even if it's just on your out your back door or even in the house or anything, just practice, getting your phone, getting your scope up, putting the, getting the eye cup twisted out or in or whatever your setup is, putting the phone on, adjusting magnification, just getting rid of the vignetting and just practicing that. I know it kind of sounds silly, but the more you do it, the better you're going to get and the faster you're going to be able to do that. A big thing with taking pictures is your optics are likely going to get dirty. So keeping that phone lens clean and keeping the optic lens clean. So on your scope, on this scope, you got your eyepiece, that lens, and then you also have the objective lens on the end. Same thing with your binos. You got here, and the objective lens, and on your phone, you got the lens there as well. So just trying to make sure that those are always clean. If you're getting pretty undesirable results, but you've been practicing so much and doing it a lot, and you're like, man, I used to get really good stuff. Try just cleaning your equipment. That could be the difference. We've chatted a little bit about tripods earlier today, on like the height. So trying to keep your tripod as low to the ground as possible when you are digiscoping, and kind of whatever is comfortable for you. But the sturdier the tripod you can get and that you use, the less vibration there's going to be with the scope. And so then, less vibration typically will mean better pictures and videos. So just the sturdiest tripod you can use or that you can get will have an effect, or which tripod you have will have an effect on the quality of the media that you're creating. There are tons of tripods out there, and they all weigh different. The heads are different, the handles are different, the legs are different. So it's really just kind of doing some due diligence and reading and trying to figure out if you can go and see some at a store and just kind of see, pick them up and see how heavy they are, and how heavy is your optic, how heavy is your spotting scope, and if you want to go with the light tripod, how will that affect the heavy scope, and it's kind of like the phone and optic combination. Everything is different. So but tripod is super, super important when digiscoping. Just try to get the sturdiest tripod you can, and just use that. The last thing on this list, and I'm sure there's stuff that we are missing for sure, but the Bluetooth shutter button, which I kind of went over earlier, pictured here. So instead of tapping the phone screen to take that picture or start that video, you use the shutter button or the timer. That works as well, which was mentioned in the chat. You don't have to tap the phone screen when you have the timer set. But just taking that picture, less vibration, kind of like with the wind blowing the tripod around, just the less vibration that the better the picture or video is going to be. So Michael talked about burst mode. I know I missed that comment. Yeah, burst mode is really cool. So, you can use that. Well, when you set the timer, it does do an automatic burst mode. I don't know if it does it on 3 seconds on the iPhone or if it's on like the 5 or 10 second. It will do an automatic burst mode. And I'm not sure what you mean about the bracketing features of the apps, if that's locking the focus in, which we didn't cover. But do you want to cover that now, Tanner? That's actually a good point to try to talk about the focus.
Yeah. No, the bracketing, I believe what he's after is the exposure bracketing. So You can take something underexposed, normally exposed, and then overexposed. You'll get more detail into the image. But for focusing, using the standard Phonescope camera app, that kind of showed that there just a minute ago. My scope is gone. Oh boy, that was a big one. There we go. So the focusing is up here, which you can manually adjust with the phone, or like I said, I suggest doing it with the optic there first, and then going in. You can either tap the screen, tap the screen on the subject. Now we're testing. There we go. So you can just tap the screen. It will generally get a real nice focus, but if it's a subject that has a lot going on, you might miss something. And just a heads up, my laptop is about to die because I cannot find the charger. So if I go black, I apologize.
Cool. So I'll just answer a couple questions on the chat here real quick. That's pretty cool that you can do that with the Apple Watch. I did not know that you can get it to take the picture.
Yeah.
It gives you a preview of the image on your watch. That's pretty cool. Does the Phonescope app try to optimize the zoom on its own when launched? It seems like the zoom is different compared to other camera apps.
Yeah, that's pretty specific. It shouldn't, you know, the what's the correct term there? Like the oh shoot, I can't think of it anyways. It shouldn't. It should just be the same. It may be putting the camera, you know, maybe the lens is a little bit different, like focal length or something. I don't know. That would be something to look into. I don't think that's actually something I've heard of yet. So I love first. The image size, the image of, I mean, the photo.
Can you change the image, like the size of the image within the? Is that what he's asking?
I think so. I'm saying I think that's what he's asking. But yes, you should be able to adjust the size of it.
Kiara, do you have anything on that? I don't know if she's still with us or not.
I am. Sorry, I was testing out the zoom on the camera app. It does zoom just a bit. The Phonescope camera app does in the wide angle.
Okay.
So there's your answer, Michael. I will ask the purposing behind that.
He just said it, yeah. And that would be the reason.
Yes.
Mark, the eye cups on the binos, it just depends on what your setup is. Every pair that I've used, I've always turned the eye cup out. Just turn it out like this and just put the phone on. That seems to work best for me. It gets me the best picture. It's hard to show it inside. But we can do more videos, and maybe we can do a workshop just on binos. That down the road for sure. Tanner left. So, and I think Tanner's computer died. So sorry about that, guys. A little. Let me go back into the presentation. Then, if you guys have any questions, just drop them in the chat. And we'll work on that. Work on getting through those. This is. I'm not Tanner. So this is Tanner's bonus tip. I'll just kind of explain it to you guys here. Because he explained it to me, and this is something he's working on. So trying to get video in low light is really tough with any camera app, and just with that video. With the photo, it's fine, and not too. You get more light with the photo than you do on the video. So what he was working on was he had the photo up, and the photo up on the screen, and then he would do a screen recording of that photo. So the frame rate's a little slower, and the quality isn't as good as say just the standard video, but you do have the better lighting if you do want the video option there. So let me see if I can. I don't think it'll actually let me play these. It won't let me play these. So I apologize for that, guys. I can try to send these out. I can try to send these out in an email to everyone that's here with us, but it's not letting me play the videos. So, but I know Tanner just hopped back in here. Dude, I was going over your tip, but it's not letting me play the videos.
Okay.
But I kind of explained it, you know, using the photo. If you want to just kind of explain it maybe a little better.
Yeah, I'll just run through a quick demo.
Cool.
So yeah, sorry about that. I had too many apps open on my laptop, and then next thing I know, red battery. So Phonescope camera app, and sorry, 1 second here. Work never sleeps. Okay, so we're on the wide angle, and it's going to be hard for me to demonstrate this here. Let's see if there's much of a difference. Not really. Not that I can really see there. So, anyways, what I'm doing with this, and it does seem to work really well. We're in the wide angle, and photo gathers more light than the video mode. It does, as it's playing it on the screen, it is a slower frame rate, so it's, you know, kind of choppy looking. But what you can do, like I just did here, just pull down from the top right, screen record, starts counting down, and now it's screen recording. So anything that I see here, we now have a screen record of. And then to stop it, you just go back and tap that. So let me show you those videos that Tim was trying to play. For some reason, the software is not letting us play those, but no big deal. Thanks for hanging in there. So the best example I have, this one. So here's the footage. Man, that looks terrible. Sorry. But I'm on photo. As you can see, I was using the standard Apple camera app at the time, trying to figure out where it was the threshold, where the zoom would change. But as you're watching the video, you can see where the photo and video, see there's, let's see, there's video mode, pretty dark, pretty unusable, and there's photo. And this looks terrible. It's not exposing correctly from my laptop camera, but you can see how much darker it is there versus here. And that's the exposure you want. Like I said, looks pretty, oh, there we go. Looks pretty rough on the camera. So there's the photo, and then that's video mode. Pretty dark, pretty grainy, and back to photo. So photo screen record, I'll put a video together, send it out to everyone so they can start using that. But I'm hoping we can incorporate into that Phonescope camera app and have a cool mode that will work for you and let you get all the light out of that setup.
Cool, dude. So Cody asked, if you take a screenshot, is it the same quality as the original photo?
I would say no. Yeah, no, it's not. But I think unless you're going to print those and put them up into like an 8x10 or 11x14 or larger screenshots, and where most people, everything is either done on a laptop, a tablet, or a phone, quality is still still plenty of it left. So good question.
Any other questions, guys? I'm just going to go down through here. Ask, this, if you have a specific setup that you have, we can maybe try to help troubleshoot it. Any specific questions? We've been going, for an hour and a half, and we're happy to keep going. If you guys have questions, that's what we're here for. We're here for you.
Thank you, Paul.
Appreciate it. And then, any other topics like digiscoping wise that you guys would like to to see us put together a workshop or videos or anything like that, you know, feel free to send those over to us. Support@phonescope.com is probably the easiest place, or through direct message on Facebook, Instagram, like that. Thank you guys for the kind words and the support as always.
Absolutely.
So what editing software do you use? For me, if I'm editing on my phone, a picture, I use Snapseed for the photo editor app. It's just real quick. It's just something I've used for like 10 years since I got my first smartphone. I don't really do too much video editing. So on my phone, if I do use it for YouTube or something like that, I'll use iMovie if it's a quick, rough edit, or if it's something more advanced, I'll use Adobe Premiere Pro. But typically on my phone, I don't really edit it. If I'm putting it on social and I need to trim it up, you can do that within Instagram as you're going to post it. Or I don't actually know if you can on Facebook. You can trim on Facebook, but I know on Instagram you can. So.
Yeah. No, I like that's good. I was going to ask whether it's photo or video. On the phone, I'll just use the standard Apple camera app. I think it gives you enough adjustment to adjust exposure or the contrast. That I think it works well for the videos. If you want to splice some clips together and kind of make a little highlight reel, you can use the Phonescope editing app that allows you to import in your footage and to kind of splice those together. The iMovie works, that works well also. But yeah, I don't do, like, for Phonescope stuff, I usually don't do a lot of editing. It's usually just straight out of the camera. I might adjust or tweak a few things, but yeah, I like it to look as natural as possible. Again, user preference.
Any other questions, guys, gals, folks?
Bueller?
If there aren't any other questions, we'll just go ahead and close up the webinar workshop here. But we appreciate you guys all joining in. Any questions at all, feel free to send them over to us after this. There should be the replay should get sent out after we're done here, and then we will also upload this to our YouTube channel. And remember to take advantage of that offer if you guys do need some new equipment, or if you're just getting started. We just appreciate you guys so much for joining us and for all the support. Cool.
Thanks, everyone. Appreciate the feedback. And we're looking forward to doing another.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a good day.
Have a good one.
Everyone.